The First World War, which raged from 1914 to 1918, was a cataclysmic event that reshaped the world and left deep scars on every nation involved. Among the many countries that contributed to the war effort, Ireland's role is both significant and complex. It is estimated that around 30,000 Irishmen lost their lives during the conflict, a staggering figure that speaks to the scale of Irish involvement and the profound impact the war had on Irish society. This short documentary explores the context, experiences, and legacy of those Irishmen who perished, examining the war's effect on Ireland's political, social, and cultural landscape. To understand the significance of the Irish losses in World War I, it is essential to consider the historical context in which these men enlisted and fought. At the outbreak of the war, Ireland was still part of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. The Home Rule movement, which sought self-government for Ireland, was at a critical juncture. The passage of the Third Home Rule Bill in 1912 had raised hopes for Irish autonomy, but its implementation was postponed due to the war. This political backdrop influenced the motivations and experiences of Irish soldiers, many of whom joined up for a variety of reasons, including loyalty to the Crown, economic necessity, and a belief that supporting the war effort would advance the cause of Home Rule. Recruitment in Ireland was vigorous and widespread, with both the British government and Irish political leaders encouraging enlistment. John Redmond, leader of the Irish Parliamentary Party, famously called on Irishmen to join the British Army, arguing that their participation would demonstrate Ireland's loyalty and strengthen the case for Home Rule after the war. Recruitment posters, rallies, and speeches were common across Irish towns and cities, and by the end of the war, over 200,000 Irishmen had served in the British forces. The 30,000 who died represent a significant proportion of those who enlisted, highlighting the high cost paid by Irish families and communities. The motivations of Irish soldiers were as varied as the men themselves. Some were driven by patriotism, whether to Ireland or to the British Empire. Others saw military service as a means of economic advancement, particularly in a country where poverty and unemployment were widespread. For some, the war offered an escape from difficult circumstances at home, while others were swept up in the fervor of the times or felt a sense of duty to protect small nations like Belgium. The diversity of motivations complicates any simple narrative about Irish participation in the war, reflecting the complex interplay of personal, political, and economic factors. Irishmen served in a wide range of regiments and units during World War I. The most famous were the Irish regiments of the British Army, such as the Royal Dublin Fusiliers, the Royal Munster Fusiliers, the Royal Irish Rifles, and the Connaught Rangers. However, many Irishmen also served in other British units, and a significant number joined the armies of other Allied nations, including Canada, Australia, and the United States, after emigrating. The presence of Irish soldiers on every major front of the war, from the Western Front to Gallipoli and the Middle East, underscores the global reach of their sacrifice. The conditions faced by Irish soldiers on the front lines were appalling. Trench warfare, with its mud, rats, lice, and constant threat of death, was a far cry from the romanticized vision of war that many recruits may have held. The major battles in which Irish regiments fought, such as the Somme, Ypres, and Gallipoli, were characterized by staggering casualties and unimaginable suffering. Letters and diaries from Irish soldiers reveal the psychological toll of the war, as well as the camaraderie and resilience that helped them endure. The loss of 30,000 Irishmen is a testament to the ferocity of the fighting and the bravery of those who served. The impact of the war was not confined to the battlefields. On the home front, Irish families endured the anxiety of waiting for news from loved ones, the grief of loss, and the economic hardship that often accompanied the death or injury of a breadwinner. The war also brought social changes, as women took on new roles in the workforce and in voluntary organizations supporting the war effort. The return of wounded and traumatized veterans posed further challenges for Irish society, which struggled to provide adequate care and support. The war years were a period of intense political upheaval in Ireland. The Easter Rising of 1916, a rebellion against British rule, occurred in the midst of the war and had profound consequences for Irish politics. The British response to the Rising, including the execution of its leaders, galvanized support for Irish independence and led to the decline of the Irish Parliamentary Party. The war thus intersected with the struggle for Irish self-determination, complicating the legacy of those who fought and died in British uniform. The memory of Irish participation in World War I has long been a source of division and controversy. In the years following the war, the focus in Ireland shifted to the struggle for independence and the subsequent Civil War. The sacrifices of Irish soldiers in the British Army were often overshadowed or even forgotten, as their service was seen by some as incompatible with the new nationalist narrative. Memorials to the war dead were neglected or vandalized, and many families kept their grief private. Only in recent decades has there been a renewed effort to recognize and honor the Irishmen who died in World War I. In recent years, there has been a significant shift in how Ireland remembers its World War I dead. The centenary of the war prompted a wave of commemorative events, exhibitions, and publications, as well as the restoration of war memorials across the country. The Irish government has played a more active role in acknowledging the sacrifices of those who served, and public attitudes have become more inclusive and understanding. The 30,000 Irishmen who died are now recognized as part of a shared national history, their stories reclaimed from the margins. Behind the statistics are countless personal stories of courage, loss, and resilience. Letters home from the front, memoirs, and oral histories provide a window into the experiences of individual Irish soldiers and their families. Some were decorated for bravery, while others died anonymously in the mud of Flanders or the sands of Gallipoli. The impact of their deaths rippled through their communities, leaving empty chairs at family tables and names inscribed on village memorials. These personal stories humanize the scale of the loss and remind us of the individual lives behind the numbers. The war also highlighted and, in some cases, exacerbated religious and political divisions within Ireland. Protestant and Catholic communities often had different attitudes toward the war, with many Protestants seeing service in the British Army as a continuation of their loyalty to the Crown, while Catholics were more likely to be influenced by nationalist sentiment. However, the trenches often brought men of different backgrounds together, forging bonds that transcended sectarian lines. The shared experience of suffering and sacrifice created a sense of solidarity among Irish soldiers, even as divisions persisted at home.
If you're enjoying this journey through Ireland's rich tapestry of history, myth, and legend, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Emerald Chronicle. Your support helps us bring more incredible stories to life, from ancient battles and forgotten heroes to timeless folktales and mystical lore. Sharing this video helps others discover the magic of Ireland's past, and subscribing means you won't miss our next tale. So, Go ahead, click that button, spread the word, and join our growing community of history and folklore lovers. Slán go fóill, and thanks for being part of the story.
Irish women played a vital, if often overlooked, role in the war effort. Thousands served as nurses, ambulance drivers, and in other support roles both at home and near the front lines. Women also organized fundraising drives, knitted socks and scarves for soldiers, and provided comfort to the wounded and bereaved. The war accelerated social change by challenging traditional gender roles and opening up new opportunities for women in public life. The contributions of Irish women during the war are an important part of the broader story of sacrifice and service. The economic impact of the war on Ireland was profound. The loss of so many young men had long-term demographic and economic consequences, particularly in rural areas where emigration and depopulation were already pressing issues. The war also disrupted trade and agriculture, leading to shortages and inflation. For some, military service provided a temporary escape from poverty, but the return to civilian life was often difficult, especially for those who were wounded or disabled. The economic legacy of the war continued to shape Irish society for decades. The experience of Irish soldiers in World War I has been reflected in literature, poetry, and art. Writers such as Tom Kettle, Francis Ledwidge, and Patrick McGill, all of whom served in the war, produced powerful works that captured the horror and futility of the conflict. Their poetry and prose offer a unique perspective on the war, blending personal experience with broader reflections on nationalism, identity, and loss. The literary legacy of the war continues to resonate, providing a means of understanding and commemorating the sacrifices of the Irish dead. The aftermath of World War I saw dramatic changes in Ireland's political landscape. The 1918 general election resulted in a landslide victory for Sinn Féin, which advocated for complete independence from Britain. The subsequent War of Independence and Civil War further transformed Irish society and politics. The memory of those who fought and died in World War I was often caught up in these struggles, with their service interpreted in different ways by different factions. The political aftermath of the war thus shaped how the dead were remembered and commemorated. The Irish diaspora played a significant role in World War I, with Irish emigrants and their descendants serving in the armed forces of many Allied nations. In Canada, Australia, the United States, and elsewhere, Irishmen volunteered in large numbers, motivated by a mix of loyalty to their new countries and a desire to support the Allied cause. The contributions of the Irish diaspora are an important part of the broader story of Irish involvement in the war, highlighting the global reach of Irish identity and sacrifice. The physical landscape of Ireland and the former battlefields of Europe is dotted with memorials to the Irish dead of World War I. In towns and villages across Ireland, war memorials bear the names of local men who never returned. In France and Belgium, cemeteries and monuments commemorate the Irish regiments and their fallen. The Island of Ireland Peace Park in Messines, Belgium, is a particularly significant site, symbolizing reconciliation and remembrance. These memorials serve as tangible reminders of the cost of war and the enduring legacy of those who died. Attitudes toward the Irish dead of World War I have evolved significantly over the past century. For many years, their sacrifice was marginalized or even stigmatized, particularly in the context of the struggle for Irish independence. However, recent decades have seen a growing recognition of the complexity of Irish history and a more inclusive approach to commemoration. The 30,000 Irishmen who died are now honored as part of a shared national heritage, their service acknowledged alongside other strands of Irish history. Education has played a key role in reshaping public understanding of Ireland's involvement in World War I. Schools, universities, and cultural institutions have developed programs and resources to teach new generations about the war and its impact on Ireland. Exhibitions, documentaries, and public lectures have helped to bring the stories of Irish soldiers to a wider audience. These educational initiatives are crucial in ensuring that the sacrifices of the 30,000 Irish dead are not forgotten and that their legacy continues to inform contemporary debates about identity, memory, and history. The legacy of the war is also evident in the lives of the descendants of those who served and died. Many Irish families have stories, photographs, and memorabilia passed down through generations, preserving the memory of loved ones lost in the conflict. For some, the war is a source of pride. For others, it is a painful reminder of loss and trauma. The personal and familial legacies of the war are an important part of the broader story, connecting the past to the present in intimate and meaningful ways. The contribution of Irish soldiers to the Allied victory in World War I has been recognized internationally. Irish regiments and individuals received numerous awards and decorations for bravery, and their role in key battles is acknowledged in military histories and commemorations around the world. The participation of Irishmen in the war is a reminder of Ireland's place in global history and the interconnectedness of nations in times of crisis. The experience of World War I had a profound impact on attitudes toward war and peace in Ireland. The scale of the loss and the horrors of the conflict contributed to the growth of pacifist and anti-war movements, both during and after the war. Many Irish veterans became involved in campaigns for peace and disarmament, drawing on their first-hand experience of the futility of war. The legacy of the 30,000 Irish dead thus includes a commitment to peace and a determination to prevent future conflicts. Artists and musicians have also played a role in commemorating the Irish dead of World War I. Paintings, sculptures, and musical compositions inspired by the war capture the emotional and psychological impact of the conflict. These artistic tributes provide a means of expressing grief, honoring sacrifice, and fostering reflection. They also contribute to the ongoing process of remembrance and reconciliation, helping to keep the memory of the 30,000 Irish dead alive in the cultural imagination. The commemoration of Irish participation in World War I has become a symbol of reconciliation in contemporary Ireland. Joint ceremonies involving representatives from both the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, as well as from Britain and other countries, reflect a commitment to acknowledging the shared history of conflict and loss. These acts of remembrance are important steps toward healing old wounds and building a more inclusive and tolerant society. Historical research into Ireland's role in World War I continues to uncover new information and perspectives. Scholars are exploring topics such as the experiences of Irish soldiers, the impact of the war on Irish society, and the ways in which the conflict has been remembered and commemorated. This ongoing research enriches our understanding of the war and ensures that the stories of the 30,000 Irish dead are preserved for future generations. The story of the Irish dead in World War I is part of a larger global narrative of sacrifice and loss. The war brought together people from every corner of the world, forging connections that transcended national boundaries. The participation of Irishmen in the conflict is a reminder of the interconnectedness of human history and the shared experiences that unite us across time and space. The story of the Irish dead in World War I is part of a larger global narrative of sacrifice and loss. The war brought together people from every corner of the world, forging connections that transcended national boundaries. The participation of Irishmen in the conflict is a reminder of the interconnectedness of human history and the shared experiences that unite us across time and space. The estimated 30,000 Irishmen and women who died in World War I represent a significant and often overlooked chapter in Irish history. Their sacrifice had a profound impact on Ireland's political, social, and cultural landscape, shaping the course of the 20th century and beyond. The process of remembering and commemorating these men and women has been complex and sometimes contentious, but recent years have seen a growing recognition of their place in the national story. As we reflect on their legacy, we are reminded of the enduring power of memory and the importance of honoring all those who have given their lives in the service of others.
Step into the past and uncover the heart of Ireland. At Emerald Chronicle, we bring you hundreds of captivating documentaries exploring Irish history, myths, legends, and folklore. Our playlists guide you through Ireland's fascinating journey, from prehistoric Ireland, proto-historic and Celtic eras, and the early Christian and Viking periods, to the Anglo-Irish invasion and the lordship of Ireland.
Delve deeper into the Tudor conquest and religious conflicts, the union with Great Britain and the Great Famine, the fight for independence and the divisions of the 20th century, and Ireland's evolution into the 21st century. Best of all, we keep all our documentaries at 15 minutes or less, making it easy to explore Ireland's history, even on a busy day.
Every time you watch, you're supporting the upkeep of our channel. And when you share Emerald Chronicle, you're helping to promote Irish history and culture worldwide. We kindly ask you to like and share, and subscribe to Emerald Chronicle now. Let's keep Ireland's stories alive together.